Hello and welcome, all of you who are here, and welcome to Joe and to Matt. They're here to talk to us about PGI, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to learn more about it. And then, of course, Matt will give us additional information in terms of assessments 24/7. So, Joe and Matt, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Well, great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. As Kathy said, my name is Joe Spurrier, and I'm the creator of the Performance Gap Indicator, or the PGI, as we like to call it. Like most of you, I have made my career in coaching and training and consulting. And until I consistently used the PGI, I struggled on how to get my foot in the door and make sales. So if that is a concern of yours, you're going to love what's next. If you're on the inside, perhaps with human resources in a former life, I also did that. So I can definitely relate to wearing that hat as well. So welcome to both sides of that. We're going to be doing today basically just as a conversation. And it's not a pre-recorded webinar that's slick. You know, Kathy and I kind of talk, but we just want to provide information and be pretty informal. So hopefully that'll work for you as we kick this off. We have a full 30 minutes. And, you know, I know that time is money, so we're just going to go ahead and dive in. I'm going to be sharing how you can sell more solutions. And because what your potential client really wants to know is if you can solve their problems and how that will impact their company. And just to let you know really quickly, I was having some technical difficulties, so we are working with Kathy, and she's going to be advancing the slides as we end up going through. So we're going to be talking about selling more solutions at this point. So in selling more solutions, she's showing right now what our agenda is. We're just going to go ahead and dive in. What your clients want to know is if you can solve their problems and how that will impact their company. So the question is, how do you sell more solutions, right? Now, our answer for that is to identify and measure your client's performance in not just one, but 5 key performance areas. And these areas are critical to any business success. So what is the PGI? It is a company-wide performance assessment. It analyzes the collective responses to 45 questions. And why are we focusing on employee feedback? You can go ahead, Kathy. And what we're really talking about is who knows the most about your client's company? You know, it's the people driving company performance day in and day out, right? It's the people on the floor. It's the people on the front line. The PGI asks participants to rate their perceptions of the beliefs and behaviors driving company performance. And as we know as consultants, if you want to know what's going on in the business, just ask the people doing the work, right? Now, as a company-wide report, it's important to note that the PGI is not designed for individual response analysis. It's a collective reporting tool. It combines the responses of teams, departments, or entire companies. Now, one of the key strengths of the PGI is it allows you to do a pre and post assessment of your client performance. Now, quick note about the 2 assessments, and you're going to stay here for a little bit, Kathy. Okay. The questions for the PGI Diagnostic and the PGI Pulse are exactly the same for both reports. The Diagnostic is your foot in the door company-wide. It's like a benchmark assessment, right? Now, as a consultant, this is going to be your secret weapon to opening new doors to business, and Matt's going to be talking about that in a moment. The PGI Pulse is simply the follow-up assessment, right? And you compare the Diagnostic, your first one, and the Pulse, your second one, to measure the level of impact, all right? Now, what you're viewing on your screen right now is the 5 non-financial KPIs, key performance indicators. And you can see their company culture, operations, leadership, training, and customer service. We refer to these collectively as the NFKPIs. So with one assessment, you're able to obtain actionable data. And that's really important that I say that, actionable data for each of these 5 areas. Now, as you view these graphs, looking at these circles, you'll see that there's a gray portion and a color portion. The color represents the percentage of participant ideal responses. The gray portion shows us how large the gap is. And we'll be explaining that later. I just want to give you an idea of what you're looking at. So looking at these 5 circles, you can easily see that on the far right, under service, out of all those 5 circles, it has the largest gray portion. This tells us that this organization has a gap of 53%. It means that 53% of employees did not provide an ideal response for the area of service. Now, for those of you raising an eyebrow, I can feel it. We're going to get a little bit more into the ideal response scoring method in a few moments. Now, for those of you who are actively having client discussions, I know you can see how this could be a powerful tool, because what we want to do is allow you to get deep quickly with your client. All right, so we've talked about what the PGI is. What you're looking at now is an example of a report, and I wanted to start with the executive summary, because I guarantee you, if you've been dealing with clients for long, you have those executives who just want the bottom line. They don't want to go through everything, just give me the bottom line, right? And presenting the executive summary, you're able to provide your clients with a quick overview of their company performance right from the beginning. And truly, when I present this, sometimes a session quickly shifts from a presentation about data to a conversation between the leaders, because they automatically start talking about how they can close their gaps. I haven't even gotten into the reports yet, and they're already diving in because they see their data, right? Now, the next slide is going to be looking at the demographic summary. And this is a quick report showing you the 4 demographics that you can turn on. I say that because you can turn them on or off, depending upon what you really want to measure with the client. And this is key, especially when you're working with smaller organizations and you need to ensure that participant anonymity, right? Anonymity is key, because participants need to feel safe to provide that honest feedback. Because we all know, without that essential trust, the data will rarely reflect what's truly going on with an organization. They'll put that hat on to say, what does my boss want me to say, right? Or what should I say to this? Going to the next report, what we'll be looking at is a statement by statement. And I'm just glancing through some reports to give you an idea of the data that you're going to be able to provide. I know I'm going fast, but Kathy and I chatted, we have a lot to share with you. So this is a quick glance of that statement by statement report. It shows you the participant responses to each of the 45 questions in the survey. Now, looking at this, you can see that you can identify each statement's corresponding NFKPI by the color in the left-hand column. Also, for those of us that may not be color coordinated, as they say, on the far right-hand column, it's written out what NFKPI that responds to. So far left, you have the color circles. Far right, you have the NFKPI lines. Bless you.
Excuse me.
What you're looking at here is the collected percentages for each statement, so you can dive in to see for each one, how did people respond? On the next report, this is the gap score. And this is really the heart of it all, folks. Now, in looking at this, I want you to realize the PGI is divided up into 3 different scales. We have a true scale. What is true for the organization? Important scale. What do they believe is important? And the effective scale. How effective are we at that? All right. Now, quick note. The same question statements are presented on the important scale and on the effective scale. All right, just to let you know, because we want to look at it kind of like 2 sides of the same coin. All right. So looking at this gap score report, let's look at the top middle graphic that you're seeing there. All right. We see a gap of 38%. Here we see that the total potential, which is black, is always 100%, meaning that if everybody in the organization gave us the highest ideal response, that of course would be the total possible, the total potential. So that's always 100%. The importance scale is the dark gray at 69, and the corresponding effective scale is 62%. So the gap score is 38%. The difference between the effective scale, 62, and the total potential, 100. Now at this point, I can feel it, I can sense it, the wheels are turning in your mind, you're thinking, well, why do you use the effective versus the importance scale to measure the gap? And that's because while it's relevant to know the importance of performance beliefs and behaviors, it's the effectiveness of carrying them out that really ultimately drives performance results. When I teach this, I always talk about the importance scale as kind of an education, because we want people to feel that this is important. And the effectiveness scale is the implementation, when they actually go do the work. So that's the two ways that we look at that. This next report is going to show you a demographic analysis. Now remember, you can turn on all of these on or off depending upon what you're looking at for the client. All right, now earlier we saw a demographic summary with the 4 circles. What we're looking at now is we're viewing it as one of the 4 potential demographic analysis. You can take each demographic item and dive a little bit deeper into it. So each of them would have a separate report. I'm just using tenure as an example, all right? So what we're looking at is looking at tenure, and we're comparing the ideal responses between the 4 tenure ranges that were listed. So let's look at the far left graph bar under culture. You can clearly see that the 1 to 5 year employees' perceptions are at 52%. Is very different than the 6 to 10 year employees at 82%. So with this information, and I picked tenure because it's one of my favorite ones, because you can get such rich data in HR looking at this to see the different segments of your population and how they view performance. I mean, you have a 30% gap there between 1 to 5 years, so the newbies, and 6 to 10, they've been there for a while. So what's happening in that time range to have a 30% difference in their gap? As you can see, this data just allows you to dive really quick, very deep with your client. This next report, we're looking at the strengths and concerns. And this organizes the ideal responses to each of the statements in one clear report. In the far left column, you're going to see green boxes. These boxes list the statements where 80% or more participants provided an ideal response. All right, so 80% more of everyone that took this assessment gave an ideal response for those statements. So that top box, it tells us that 86% of employees believe that it's important taking individual initiative to identify and exceed customer needs. So that's a strength. And we always want to celebrate what folks are doing right, as well as looking at opportunities for improvement, right? So you want to be able to celebrate with your client, and then you can also talk to them about, well, how do we make sure this is a repeat event, right? How can we duplicate this score? How can we make sure this is not an anomaly? On the right-hand side, you'll see a series of red boxes. These boxes list the statements where 50% or fewer participants provided an ideal response. So strengths are 80% and above. Concerns are 50% or more that provided an ideal response. So look at the second red box as an example. That second red box, it tells us that 23% of employees had an ideal response to statement 16. Management would be surprised to learn what it takes to get the job done due to our processes. Right? So that would be a concern. You had less, so basically 75% said, we don't do this well. 23% felt that was ideal. Now for each statement, it gives you the information of its scale, what NFKPI it is, and then you'll see priority. And the letters H, M, and L under priority stand for high, medium, and low. This is an opportunity for you when you're presenting this report to your client to uncover your client's level of concern for key performance issues. Because I've really, sometimes I'll be looking at the raw data and there'll be a very high gap in something, and I'm getting all excited about it and thinking this is a great opportunity, only to realize that it really wasn't a priority for the client. The data told me it was an issue, but it wasn't a priority for them. So I put this in the report because as you show them your strengths and concerns, I usually make it a quick exercise and have them circle themselves, or as a small group, or if it's departments, is this a high, medium, or low concern? And while they're doing that, I'm watching and I'm listening. I want to gauge, I really want to identify which gaps are the priority for my client. And I'm just taking note, and if you're like me, you always have someone there with you, and then you know what you're going to present, what you're going to stress during your summary and in your proposal. Now with that, we've covered the highlights of the reports available. And it became what I call a power tool in what I do. And the goal of this was to be able to sell more solutions. So I told you that in addition to introducing the performance gap indicator, I'm going to lead you through some tips. I have 3 secrets of how I was able to grow my business. The first one, a company-wide assessment gives you company-wide access. And that's important because if you have company-wide access, you can provide comprehensive solutions. You're moving from one department or team to having access to the entire company. Just like when you go to the doctor for a chronic stomach ache. Are you going to limit your questions to, what you ate for dinner, and then they're going to provide some antacids? Most likely not. They're going to be looking comprehensively what's going on. They might take your temperature, check your vitals, right? Because an antacid is going to do nothing as if what you're really suffering from was an ulcer, or an appendicitis, right? So you want to look at everything comprehensively. And as you know, your client's company, just like a body, is a system. And unless you address the entire system, you're bound to miss those critical issues or give an incomplete treatment plan. You might miss an opportunity to provide some solutions. So we love that this gives you comprehensive or company-wide access through having company-wide data. The second secret is we look at the debrief as a strategy session. Very important. I usually don't even call it a debrief. Everything I do is a strategy session. So you are delivering the assessment results. Your main job is to turn data into actionable analytics. This is where you add your interpretation and meaning to the data. Think about it this way. When your clients are reviewing performance results with their company, and they're staring at their own data, they're looking at the gaps, dragging their performance down. You don't want the conversation to stop there, right? I mean, you have a clear opportunity to deliver more value and to start creating an action plan right then to get the organization back on track. Your goal at this point, whether they hire you to close their gaps or not, is to add value during that results strategy session. A big step in that direction is to never call it a debrief session, call it a strategy session. You immediately set up your potential clients' expectations from it's just going to be a whole bunch of data presented to actually strategizing and adding value. You're already contributing to the organization. The third one, I got to tell you, this is my favorite. That CFO is going to be your best friend. Because what is the obstacle? What's the biggest obstacle to new and repeat business? What stops them from signing on the dotted line? The inability to quantify our impact, the client's ROI, their return on investment. They want to justify their time, money, and resources. Your clients are repeatedly asking questions. They are repeatedly questioning the value and impact of what you're offering. I remember this. I remember struggling to articulate my value, trying to convince my potential clients that I could make a difference. I knew they would see the value if they would just give me a chance. Clients need to feel confident that the value and impact of your services outweigh their risk of investment. They want to know that the impact of working with you, and I cannot stress this enough, every discussion, every process, every decision needs to revolve around the impact you're going to make for your client. This should guide everything you and your team does. People are not coming to us for more information. They don't care about our processes, how slick it is, how great the report looks. The bottom line, they want to know how you're going to make a difference to their bottom line. And with the PGI Diagnostic and PGI Pulse, you're able to document and show them how far you've moved the needle. So at the end of this, we like to say, stop pushing assessments and start selling solutions. And the way I grew my business from a struggling business to a 7-figure business is I stopped selling assessments and I started selling company-wide solutions. I turned results data into actionable analytics, something the client could actually use and make a difference. And I was able to clearly demonstrate my impact and my client's ROI with quantifiable data. Their own data shows them that you're making a difference to them. I know that was a lot. I just packed 45 minutes into 21. So at this point, I'm actually going to turn it over to Matt. He is the marketing ninja. No one does this better and able to articulate how PGI can assist you in growing your business. And then we'll have a couple minutes for Q&A. So I'm going to step back and turn it over to Matt at this point.
Thanks, Joe. That was great. I appreciate that. And I just quickly with everybody, over at Assessments 24/7 with Dr. Tony Alessandra, 25 years in, he spent the better part of the last 10 years looking for a company-wide assessment to develop or envelope into our catalog because it's so important. The individual assessments and even the team reports take more of a microscopic and individual approach. But company-wide assessments are so important to get your foot in the door. It's as much about getting you face time with decision makers when you might not otherwise. And we can talk a little bit about how that works because a lot of our coaches are already doing it, using that way to great success. One of the biggest questions and ask for help that we get from our coaches and coaches is how can I do better at sales? How can I sell more? How can I provide more solutions? Most consultants and coaches don't come from a background in sales. And the company-wide assessment, specifically the performance gap indicator, and the way we've set it up is that you can basically blast this on the homepage of your website, all of your social media, everywhere, free company-wide assessment to any new business client. And the way that you can do that is because it just costs dollars a day. We set up a subscription-based model where it's just a small monthly fee for unlimited performance gap indicator assessments. So the beautiful thing is that not only does this assessment diagnose for you in minutes exactly how and where the company needs your coaching and your expertise, but it also works as a lead magnet and a sales device and starts bringing businesses to you rather than you chasing after businesses. And so when you sit down with the average business leader or owner and you present them a report like this that's so clear in black and white, it's very, very hard for them to ignore this data. And the beautiful thing is that you're able to see the report before you present it to them, right? Because like all of your Assessments 24/7 reports, they come up in your dashboard. So you're able to review the results and then come up with the solutions prior to meeting with them with the debrief. So what that means is you're walking in, sitting down with the business leader, decision maker, owner. You're providing them not only the problems they have in an objective way, but you're also simultaneously telling them how to solve those problems. You're identifying the problems and you're providing them the solution. And that right there does so much for you in terms of winning over new clients and not having to spend days or weeks interviewing employees within a company to get some sense of maybe where some of the company hiccups and issues are, which of course, when you're just interviewing a small sample size, it's not going to be nearly as accurate as something that's comprehensive. So we really went with this because this allowed us to provide and introduce a company-wide assessment that really, the way we position it, the way we look at it, is that the performance gap indicator is almost, to use a medical analogy, it's almost like a company MRI, okay? It tells you and identifies where in the company body the problems are. And then the individual assessments and team reports like DISC and motivators and Hartman and emotional intelligence and learning styles and leadership effectiveness and the 360s and all of those are like the surgical instruments that you use once you get in there and you start doing the work. And it's called evidence-based coaching, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with, or many of you are familiar with. It is the future of coaching and consulting. We've really come to an apex in coaching where computer algorithms and the social sciences have met, and we're able to bring numerical data to things in the past that were far too abstract. And now you can use this to get yourself in the door, identify the problems, and then provide the solutions. And it's just really, and again, it's wonderful. We went ahead and put this up on the login page where you can actually subscribe to it. I don't know, Kathy, if you're able to pull up the login page.
Yeah, I can do that. Give me just a second. Joe and I were actually looking at it earlier. So
yeah, we just updated it for everybody.
Yeah, so there's, I'll show all of you a couple of things. First off, if you go on the resources tab on the website, you go to assessments, you can look at how it works, and this gives you a list. From this list, you've got all the assessment information that's on your dashboard, plus you have a link if you want to go straight into the performance gap here. Above and beyond that, you've got your dashboard, and all of you that graduated from a program already have a login to the dashboard. If you haven't graduated and you want to have a dashboard, that's something you can contact us for. And you will see on this dashboard, before you even log in, information on the performance gap indicator. So if that's the only one you want access to, you can get to it right here. If you want access to the rest of them, we can set you up with the login access.
I don't know if that, I don't know if I can, I'm still seeing the next steps page. Is that just me?
All right, so let me,
Here we go.
There we go. There it is. There's the login page.
Okay, that's,
so yeah, so up, if you scroll up a little bit.
So
you will, yeah, there we go. So there's the virtual tour of your dashboard. You can also schedule a screen-to-screen one-on-one tour with Suzette.
Yeah, let me back up, because if you didn't see my screen, I want to back up and show them where I got to it. On the resources tab on the website, it says assessments. And if you go down to the bottom and click on CCC Assessments Dashboard for Graduates, that's where you're getting the access to this dashboard. And then if you scroll down here, this is where you're getting the access to the performance gap indicator.
Yeah, and what we did was we added this section yesterday where there's a small blurb about the performance gap indicator highlighted in blue. That's a hot link to the landing page on our website where there's a full page description, video, printout collateral, testimonials, sample reports, everything you need to educate yourself. If you, there's really just a wealth of information there. And then also then at the bottom of the paragraph where it says subscribe to unlimited PGI assessments, that links you over to the subscription page. And where you can subscribe again to unlimited performance gap indicator assessments. And really, doing the sales, so much of the sales work for you, eliminating the time of diagnosing the problems, it really is a no-brainer. To take it one step further and just kind of tantalize everybody with what's coming, for those of you that are familiar with Dr. Alessandra's core assessments methodology, the 5 core assessments, which is really the world's first holistic approach to assessments, to look at the whole person, which uses DISC, motivators, Hartman value profile, emotional intelligence, and learning styles. We're going to be rolling those into the performance gap indicator. So what that means is, not only will the performance gap indicator be showing you where the gaps are and where the strengths are, it will then be providing statement sets and recommending, consider using assessment A or assessment B to improve those strengths or to close that gap. So then it's only further kind of selling the data to your client, and also kind of helping steer you in the right direction as well. So what we have here is we have the performance gap indicator being your macro assessment solution, and then the core assessments and 360s and other individual assessments being your micro solution. So again, it's like the company MRI is the performance gap indicator, and all the individual assessments are like the surgical instruments. So you can see how this really, really dovetails well, and everyone that's been using it in the field is having outstanding results. We're getting great testimonials and feedback. Really it's fantastic. I do also just want to say one last thing. We do have a performance gap indicator certification program, which, like all of Assessments 24/7 certification programs, it's remote, it's self-paced. You still get to work with Joe on how to learn how to debrief the reports via Zoom. But it's like 10 to 12 hours, 8 hours, something like that in that neighborhood. And it is ICF accredited, like all of our certification programs. And like all of our certification programs, it's for life. So no recertification fees or requirements. You are certified for life. And what that means is you have our support with this assessment, Joe's support with this assessment for life, because we want to make sure that you're successful. Our whole model, because it's based on white labeling you and promoting and branding you and not us, versus other companies that put their logo on everything. We found out and realized years ago that the best way to ensure everyone's success is to first to ensure the coach's success, because you're the bridge. And so all of our certifications are good for life. All of our certifications are online and self-paced, but involve a live trainer. And all of them are ICF accredited. So you're going to earn your CEUs while you're at it. On top of that, when you become PGI certified, you get another benefit. Instead of $299 a month for unlimited performance gap indicators, it's only $199 a month. Now, even at $299 a month, when you have unlimited performance gap indicators to use as lead magnets and get your foot in the door and diagnose the problems, I mean, that alone is worth it. But $199 a month, it just makes it that much sweeter. Really, that's kind of where we are with the performance gap indicator. And again, I'm always available. You can always reach out to me and contact me at any time. Just Matt at Assessments 24/7 to answer any of your questions. That's kind of where it's at. And again, just fantastic feedback, and excited to hear from you all as well.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And to let all of you know, obviously we're here as a resource for you, as well as is the Center for Coaching Solutions, when you want support in terms of getting out there and doing the work. We do offer the blog and the books, the Coaching Perspective series, as well as the newsletter with updates on when the next free webinars are. We talked earlier, if you want to stay and ask questions, we're happy to hang around and do that. I did get some messages. I know some people had to cut out because they have other things scheduled. We want to thank all of you for being here, for your time and for your interest. And I'm going to open it up to you. Who has a question? And you can unmute yourself and come in live and ask. And Matt and Joe, this is the stage where everybody's hanging out to see what other people ask first.
No, I threw a lot at them. It's always interesting to figure out, how much, how soon.
I want to point out too, one thing that I left off, with Assessments 24/7, we don't just provide the assessments and the certification training. We also provide all the sales and marketing collateral. There's all the multimedia trainer resources. It's all free on your dashboard. And that's included with PGI. So when you subscribe to PGI, there'll be a folder that'll appear under the resource center of your dashboard. A folder just like all the other multimedia folders for all the other assessments. And that folder has a PowerPoint. It has a debrief guide. There's even a 1-hour how-to debrief webinar that you can watch. Point is that you have the resources to self-educate about the performance gap indicator, as well as get certified. One advantage, obviously, is that when you get certified, like all of our other certifications, you receive a special password to that folder where the materials become that much more robust. But point is that there's a lot there that you can work with.
Yeah, nice, excellent. So fabulous information. I think the big key for so many coaches is figuring out how to get their services available to people. And this is just one of many tools for that. So Matt and Joe, thank you so much for coming and for sharing this. We will get a link to this recording out. We'll make it available through the website, and we will also make it available to you if you want to have access to the recording. Those of you that have questions, do reach out, let us know, and we're happy to have a conversation how this is a tool to help you build your coaching business. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.